It's Monday, June 17th, 2024, and this is episode 311 of You Can Bet on That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet on That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. I'm Mark Duvall.
And I'm Dr. Mike.
All right, listeners, please indulge us for just a little bit. We're going to talk about craps in California because there's been a new development. Sherry and I went out to Jamul a couple days ago, and we were horrified to find that they have gone back to shuffling the cards for every new shooter. Remember, we had talked about how they were setting up the cards ahead of time to ace 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, etc., so that it was like real craps, and they would only shuffle the cards if a player asked them to. Well, they've gone back to the old way. I pulled one of the florists, his name's Glenn, super nice guy, and asked what had happened. He said, so Jamul and Pechanga were the only two that were doing this, they called it Vegas-style craps. And I confirmed with Glenn that, yeah, both casinos had gotten approval from the California Gambling Control Commission to deal it this way. Well, apparently what happened was one or more of the other tribal casinos complained or went to gaming and said, hey, this isn't, how come? Because they were losing business to these two casinos, right? And so gaming just kind of threw up their hands and said, forget, we don't want to go through all this and the politics and everything. Everybody has to go back to the way it was. So that's what Glenn told me, and that sounds like that is probably the case.
Why not go to the other way? Why not say, okay, to these other casinos, you can do it this way too?
And that's what we thought was going to happen, right? It was going to spread.
Yeah.
But maybe each tribe had to submit the request individually. It wasn't something that gaming was going to say, oh, you could all do. I don't know. Again, it's politics, it's red tape.
Yeah,
that would have been nice.
Maybe there's some money involved in that. Yeah. Maybe they have to not only apply, but pay some kind of fee or something, or I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, we're back to the way it was. Nice while it lasted. Maybe it'll come back. But
yeah, I had gone to Diamond Joe Worth yesterday, and one of the guys out there who's originally from the LA area, he said, one of my friends told me they have real craps now. And I said, yeah, they did for a while. Because you had just told me this. And then I explained it all to him. He used to go to Pechanga a lot because he lived in LA.
Yeah.
So, he was a little disappointed. And he's like, so when I go to visit, it's back to card craps? Yeah.
Yep. That's the way it is. I've got to take my little cheat sheet cards to tell me what rolls are 7. I didn't have it with me the other day. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, you couldn't yell safe.
Couldn't do it, with any kind of confidence. We won,
I'll
though.
Tell you.
So, I guess it worked out for us. A lot of the rolls that would have been 7s turned out to be like 10s. So, okay. Moving on. All right. So, we went to Blackhawk. Let's talk about something fun now.
Yeah.
I think both of us agree that we really loved Blackhawk, Colorado.
Yes. Immediately when we got there, I was very impressed. And I was like, oh my gosh, why in the world do I need to go to Vegas?
Yeah. It is great. A lot of the casinos are close by. Mike, I wrote down some notes here. I don't know if we're going to go chronologically through our trip because I don't know. I'm kind of scatterbrained when I wrote all this down.
And we had a long trip. It was like a week for both of us.
Yeah, Sherry and I showed up a little bit early, so we did some hiking, which was great. The weather was terrific. You and Lynn stayed a little bit afterwards. I know you guys did some sightseeing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we did a lot of sightseeing.
But let's talk about the trip and the casinos and everything. Yeah, love that Blackhawk, all the casinos are kind of close by, and you can walk between them. There's Central City that's close by. You could walk there, but it makes more sense kind of just to drive. It's only a couple minutes away. And explore that area too, but just love the closeness of it. Oh boy, as soon as we walked in, so all the casinos are non-smoking.
Yes. And that is a delight.
We loved it. It made the casinos seem cleaner.
Right.
When you go in, you don't smell that. And so that was really nice.
Well, there's not a film of smoke on everything.
That's right. The carpets are relatively clean.
Yeah, it just the whole town actually seemed cleaner. I mean, when you're walking between the casinos or you're outside, there's nobody handing you stuff or pestering you.
Yeah,
Or,
that is true. Yeah.
I mean, it's just clean. The streets are clean. There's not the glitz of Vegas as far as, like big neon signs and all that.
Well, and they
But
try to make the decor fit with the Rocky Mountains, right?
Rocky
And
Mountains,
everything
right.
there. So, yeah, they did a pretty good job of that, I think.
Yeah. And for me, the fact that, there's a lot of casinos close together, you have tons of choices of where you want to play or what you want to do. It's clean. And if you like outdoors, if you need to take a break instead of going to some lounge or something, you can drive through the Rockies there. I thought it was wonderful.
Yeah, and like I said, Sherry and I did a lot of hiking. There's hiking very close by. Let's talk about the gambling a little bit. It was kind of surprising that the craps rules, they were different at virtually every casino.
Yeah.
You had anywhere between 10 times odds up to 100 times odds. Some places collected the VIG ahead of time on buy bets, while others, afterwards.
So some you could buy the 5 and 9 and others you couldn't.
Right, yes. We found that the overall best rules for craps were at Horseshoe, which is where you and I were staying. The only downside to that was that it was a $15 minimum pretty much all the time, whereas most of the other casinos were $10. And at Horseshoe, they had 3 craps tables. Sometimes there was only one open, and it was the crapless table.
Yes.
So that's a downside, although the last night we were there, we killed it on the crapless table. It was 2,
and
3, 11, 12. Yeah, it was nice.
What's funny is I can't say that I'm a big fan of crapless, but it was kind of fun playing on there.
It definitely was. Sherry was saying that it's more exciting on a crapless table when things are going well. I mean, there were some times earlier in the week where person would come out on a point, roll a 6, roll a 9, and then 7 out, right? You just get slaughtered on that because you've taken all the numbers. But hey, and we made those dealers work on that last night when we were having, oh my gosh, they were sweating so hard because we were pressing up numbers. There were, like 4 of us on one side. They only had half the table open for most of it. They're making all these payouts and we're giving them dollars for the buys. And great. We had good crews at every casino, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The crews everywhere. The people working in the casinos were awesome. I mean, every single one. I don't think I had one where that guy's a little surly.
Yeah, nothing like that. The best crew we had, I think, was at Lodge Casino. A couple of the mornings there. Very good, very funny, just a lot of fun to play with.
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes the atmosphere even that much better. So you had all this stuff going for you from a standpoint of a variety of games and things that you like, no smoking, blah, blah, blah. And then the people were great. So there was no downside really to the gambling. You're going to win. Sometimes you're going to lose. But other than that, it was very fun, I thought.
Yeah. It was great to see everybody. I'm not going to try to name everybody because I know we will forget people. Yeah. But again, it was great to see everybody there and play with you. And we had some meals together.
It's a great meetup place.
Yeah, I agree. And in a second here, we'll compare it to Biloxi because there's some similarities, there's some differences. I know we missed the Biloxi trip this year, but I want to talk about kind of some differences. A few stories here. We had lunch one day at Dostal Alley, which is in Central City, and a bunch of us kind of took over the video poker bar there. And we're yelling back and forth about hands that were playing, this kind of thing. And listener Michael at one point asked, do I keep 4 to a flush or 3 to a royal? That's the big question, right? You're only 1 away from a flush, but do I get rid of 2 cards and try to go for the royal, even though I'm probably not going to hit it? Right. We said, hey, 3 to the royal. It's not even close if you look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Keep 3 to the royal, 3 to the royal. And so he said, okay, this is going to be painful. Hit the button, hit a royal flush. So fantastic. Everybody was cheering. $1,000 here. It's just this slot joint in Central City. So that was great.
Yeah, that's funny. Our luck was not as good on the slots.
No.
Lynn missed a royal by 1.
Mm-hmm.
She had to just draw 1 card, didn't get it. No royals.
Sherry and I, before you got there, my intent was to try to go to every casino and play a little bit. I fell short of that pretty drastically short of it. But we did play a bunch of slots before you guys arrived, and we won for slots. In fact, we were playing one Wheel of Fortune. We were just doing one line, right? The minimum amount. And, the wheel spun, and we got like 40 free spins and won like $160 or something on that, just playing $1 at a time, and won on other slots too. So winner for the slots.
Nice. Yeah, for you slot players, there's no lack of slots.
A lot of the places, it's just slots. Yeah.
Yeah. So. If you're a slot player, that's almost like heaven. There's so many slots.
One thing we did see is that when you tip the dealers by making place bets for them, they round up when it comes to the payout, kind of like Atlantic City. I guess that's a law in Colorado. But they did have quarters, literal 25-cent, either chips or actual quarters on the table, so that they weren't rounding all the way up to $1. So like if you place the 6 for them and it hit, they'd pay themselves $1.25 and then drop that into the tip jar. They wouldn't pay themselves off $2 like they do at Atlantic City. Anyway, what I was getting at here is that they would always take that bet down unless you asked for player control. Now, there's another thing, Mike. When we went to Grand Z Casino, they said, no player control here. They wouldn't even let you do it, right?
Right.
But at some casinos, they actually had lammers that said PC on them, player control.
Right.
Never seen that before.
No, I'd never seen that either, and it was nice.
Yeah.
So that when you switch dealers, the new guy coming in knows, hey, this is player control, right?
Yeah.
Saves a lot of confusion and a lot of time.
Yeah. So let's talk about kind of differences between Biloxi and Blackhawk, because that was the first thing that occurred to me is like, which one would I rather go to? That kind of thing. Now, Colorado's closer to us, so it's a shorter flight. So that's kind of nice. It's also a shorter drive from the airport. So the drive from Denver to Blackhawk is shorter than the one from New Orleans to Biloxi.
Another thing for us is flights from like Minneapolis to Denver are abundant.
And cheap for you, right?
And cheap, $100 round trip.
Oh, wow, that's great. The casinos are closer together in Blackhawk, so you can just walk between them. Whereas in Biloxi, there are a couple that are close together, but for the most part, you've got to drive from one to another.
Right.
Biloxi does have the advantage of being kind of a bigger city. Like Sherry and I, we needed to kind of go to a grocery store, and there's nothing terribly close to Blackhawk. We had to drive about 25 minutes to Evergreen, and there was like a giant, Walmart. It was
right.
Blackhawk, again, has the advantage of the non-smoking. We definitely like that. I guess Biloxi is a little better in that the rules seem to be consistent between casinos. You go from one to the other, you can always buy the 5 and 9, that kind of thing. This is up in the Rocky Mountains, so you probably are not going to travel to Blackhawk in the dead of winter. So that's another thing that Biloxi has an advantage on.
Yeah, winter might be a problem if they're having a rough winter.
There were limited dining options in Blackhawk. There's certainly more dining in Biloxi. You and I, again, we stayed at Horseshoe, and really not many places to eat there. You only had like 2 choices, and their nice steakhouse wasn't open every day.
Yeah, the food there was not great. It's serviceable.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for great food, that's not the place.
We ate at a barbecue place that was, standalone. Wasn't in one of the casinos. Did you eat there too?
We ate there too.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was very good. Yeah, definitely like that. Yeah. A Horseshoe, when we go back, and I'm sure we're going to be going back, I wouldn't stay at Horseshoe again. The only reason that we did basically is we're kind of burning off any credits we have with Caesars at this point. The room was fine. Again, dining was limited. The elevators were kind of a nightmare. At one point, they had 4 elevators. Only 2 of them were working at one point. They weren't working that well. It was kind of nice that you'd get on the same elevator to go to the parking lot or go to your room.
Yeah, I love that.
That was kind of nice. So if you parked your car, you'd get on the elevator that would take you straight to your room. You didn't have to, take the parking garage elevator to the lobby and then get on another elevator. So
right. Yeah.
but they were having elevator problems. I think if we were to go again, we'd probably stay at Ameristar, which is kind of the crown jewel of Blackhawk, I guess.
Yeah, but I had no problem with Horseshoe, really. The room's fine. I'm not a stay in the room person.
No,
so
I don't want to say I had a problem with it either, but it sure seems like the other places are nicer.
Yeah.
All right. Big thumbs up for Blackhawk. We're definitely going to be going back there. Yeah.
Yeah, overall, I was very happy, very impressed. And the thing I love is that we would get up in the morning, eat breakfast, get in the car and just drive somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to the Rocky Mountain National Park. Some days after you guys left that last day, we just drove. I don't know where we were. We must have got lost about 5 times on this trip on purpose. I just keep driving.
Sure.
And so, we just drive around and finally, look, we're in Boulder. So, we had a good time getting lost in the mountains. And I wanted to mention that the national park there is awesome. And if you're a senior, which they consider 62, you can get a lifetime pass to all the national parks in the United States of America for $80.
Oh, nice.
And only one person needs to have a pass. It's just per car
Nice.
for $80.
Yeah.
I mean, $80, that's your press on the 9. You go from 50 to 80.
Sure.
I mean, that's unbelievable deal.
Well, then you got to take your 9 down to pay for it, or it has to hit again. I'm just saying.
It hits again. You go to 100.
Okay, there you go. All right. Well, again, great trip to Blackhawk. We want to thank Thomas and Melissa for organizing everything. They did a great job, and I think everybody really enjoyed it. Yeah. All right. Well, listeners might have been thinking, I wonder why Mark and Dr. Mike have not talked about the Shohei Ohtani gambling scandal. And we haven't. The thing is, there are a lot of opinions on it. There was a lot of speculation. It's starting to kind of get wrapped up now. There was, how could Ohtani not have known that his translator was stealing money for blah, blah. There's still probably a lot of unanswered questions. And we didn't really want to go down that road. So we haven't even mentioned it. Well, something happened here recently that hit a little closer to home. So a Padre player, Tucupita Marcano, who he's technically a Padre, but I don't think he played any games, did he, Mike?
No, he never took the field as a Padre.
So, he was on the roster, but he had been traded from the Pirates. So here recently, he has been banned for life, by Major League Baseball for violating the league's gambling policy. Now, he wagered more than $150,000 on sports between October 2022 and November 2023, and some of those bets were on Pirates games while he was on the Pirates roster. Now, he was on the IL when he made these bets, but he was still on the Pirates roster, and that's a no-no. There were some other players who have been banned for like a year because they were betting on sports. But Marcano specifically, some of his bets were on Pirates games. That's a no-no. That's banned for life. Now, some of you may have heard that he only won 4.3% of his bets, but a big reason for that was he was betting parlays, not individual bets on sides and totals. So it wasn't that he was that bad a gambler. It's just that, some were parlays. This is a no-no. And Mike, as far as I'm concerned, this lifetime ban is completely appropriate.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, you can't be betting on your own team because there's a lot of inside information that goes there. And you might say to your buddy, hey, I got a lot on tonight's game for us to lose. And, it's just.
Yeah, MLB, even in their investigation, found that he didn't really have any knowledge necessarily that would help him determine. But that's not the point. He's betting on his own team.
Well, the problem is if you let it go, then other people start doing it, and they do change, outcomes and stuff.
You hear a lot in the press about, Major League Baseball and a lot of other leagues are hypocritical because, they're promoting gambling at this point, but then, their players are gambling and they're, fining them or banning them. I don't think it's hypocritical. This is how you keep things like this in check.
Right.
They're embracing gambling because gambling is going to happen no matter what. And they're trying to stay on top of things. Going back to the Otani situation, his translator, he wasn't making legal wagers. He was doing it through a bookie.
Right.
So it's not like the proliferation of legalized sports gambling through the country is causing this to happen. Gambling's always going to be there.
Right.
So the leagues might as well take advantage of it while they can, while keeping an eye on their players. So, yeah, that's my opinion. And again, kind of one of the reasons we didn't bring this up is because then you have to talk about Pete Rose and his situation, and that's complicated, and should he be in the Hall of Fame? And I don't want to get into that discussion either, because that's very complicated too. I'm not a big Pete Rose fan, so I'm probably biased if we were going to talk about it. But in this case, I think this is the correct, it's too bad for him, but I think it's the correct judgment.
Well, the one thing that burns me up is that every time I would hear about this, I turn on the TV and they would say, blah, 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 a Padre, and they just got him from Pittsburgh. He hasn't played for the Padres or anything, but it's inevitably linked to the Padres now because...
you and I are thinking, who? Who are they talking about?
That's what gets me. Why don't they say ex-Pittsburgh Pirate?
But he is technically with the Padres, or he was until he got banned, so...
Yeah.
All right, we got an email from listener Barry. He was on a cruise recently, and he got wiped out at the casino. It just wasn't good for him. And on the last day, he realized he hadn't gotten his souvenir casino chip, and he only had a little money left. So he went to the cage, and they wouldn't sell him a chip. That's not uncommon. There are plenty of casino cashiers they should be allowed to do it. I don't know. Checks and balances, whatever, but that's not uncommon. They say, no, you got to go to a table. So he went to the table. He went to what he thought was a blackjack table, just real quick, wasn't paying attention, and bought in for 20 euros. But once he got his 4 red chips, he realized it wasn't a blackjack table, but was something like Ultimate Texas Hold'em with a 10 euro minimum. Anyway, so he didn't have enough chips to correctly play even a single hand, right? Because, it's multiple bets.
Right.
So now reading through his email, it appeared that it didn't matter to Barry whether he took home a 5 euro red chip or a 1 euro white chip for a souvenir. So now Barry in his email said he figured he had 2 options. Just pocket a red chip and cash out the remaining 15 euros at the cage. And, that's the end of it. Or find a blackjack table and play a hand for 10 euros, which would leave him with 30 euros if he won, 20 euros if he pushed, and 10 euros if he lost, barring any double downs or splits. And then after the hand, asking for change for some white chips, pocketing one of them, and then cashing out at the cage for either 29, 19, or 9 euros. And he was asking us what decision would make the most sense from a statistical standpoint. But I think his best option would have been to just ask for some white chips at that first table he was at. And
that's what I was thinking. Why
one
do
of them.
You just buy in for the 20 euros and then say, oh, can I get some white and get 5 of the euros in white, put one in his pocket, go to the cage and cash out 19.
Yeah, that wasn't one of the options that Barry mentioned in his email. So unless we're missing something, I don't know why you would have to play a hand before you ask for white chips on the table, especially since at that first table that wasn't blackjack. I mean, they sold him the chips and obviously he was able to walk away without playing, right? So you would think he'd be able to say, oh, cash in one of these reds, give me some whites. So anyway, we would say that would be the best option, is to just ask for whites at the table.
Yeah, because they don't require you to play. You buy in. You see it all the time. People buy in. Oh, this isn't blackjack. Oh, sorry. And then they just walk away.
Yeah.
That's what I would have done. But given the other options that he said, if he wanted to, pocket a red chip and then...
Yeah, I think that's what he did. He pocketed the red chip and then cashed out for 15.
Yeah.
That's fine, if you don't mind. But usually at a table, even if you are not going to bet whites, they'll give them to you. There's no rule against that. And, you're able to walk away. I mean, they're not going to force you to, they're certainly not going to try to buy the chips back from you. They've already dropped the money. They're not in a position to do that. So,
Well, the chips cost more to make than their value.
Oh, is that right, Dr. Mike?
Like a $1
Okay, a $1
white
chip. Okay.
Costs more to make. So maybe the casino doesn't want you wandering off with their $1 chips. I don't know.
I don't think that's true. I think they don't care.
But, they do. I have heard that it costs more than $1 to make. Well, definitely for RFD chips, right? The higher denominations.
Oh, the RFID chips? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I could believe that. But see, if you're talking about the higher denominations, well, then those are worth more at the table.
Right, right. Do they put them in fives?
Yeah, I think it depends on the casino. I mean, remember when we were at Harrah's, Mike, you could put any number of chips up there. They'd lay it down there on that sensor, and it would immediately show them how much it was. So it seems like they were even in ones.
Yeah, they were even in ones. That's what I was going to say, because they have that sensor thing.
Yeah.
Which I think is great.
Oh, yeah.
I can't tell you how many times the cashiers, add yours up and they're like, okay, and they're off. And I'm like, no, you better recount that. And I don't think I ever had an instance where when they laid them on there, it was off.
No.
They would always just say, oh, yeah, you got $1,283, just like that. And okay, and they'd pay. But yeah, if you have a chip in like $1, it might be more than $1 to make that.
All right. Well, I think we've discussed this enough, and I'm sure we're going to get some feedback from listeners who know exactly how much it costs to make these chips, and then we'll get
the guy who makes them. There's just one guy. He lives in a tree. He's like an elf. Oh, wait. Maybe I'm getting that confused with Keebler cookies.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah. Mike, here's what I'm thinking. So we are going to be recording again here in a week. Since we kind of missed our previous deadline. It's been 3 weeks since our last episode. We're going to record here in a week again. And I think we're going to save our phone calls for next time. I do want to play one, though, from Ariel, because I'm going to follow up with a couple of things that happened to me and Blackhawk. So let's hear from Ariel.
Hey, Mark, Dr. Mike, this is Ariel. So just a couple of trip reports I haven't called in a bit, but so I went on a cruise to go to Alaska. That's a blast. I recommend that to everybody. $5 minimum on the craps table, only open from 8 o'clock to 12 or 11. They did have the bonus, all tall, small. We hit it. That was great. That was a lot of fun. The staff was really helpful, really good, and it was a lot of fun. Another trip went to a casino, Parks Casino in Vancouver, Canada, and they also had craps, one table. But it wasn't open when we were there. We were there in the morning, afternoonish. So I guess they only open at night. Canadian money, of course. It was a nice little place. Well, it was 2 stories, so it was pretty good. They had a lot of slot machine and table games and just one craps table though. That's Parks Casino. Also, I wanted to kind of let you know of an experience. So I know you guys recommended Tamul, but I went to Harrah's, San Diego. I was playing roulette. Craps was not very good, so I left. And I said, hey, you guys, after I was done playing, I was like, hey, you guys want to change everything or just the ones that I was playing with? And they said, no, you can just go ahead and change everything. So I know how much money I had. I gave it to them. The dealer was moving the chips around and giving me reds and greens and also black chips. I had about $2,000 black chips. And then when he counted out my black chips, he was like, oh, okay, 1,000 black chips. I was like, what? And then the fit box comes and then says, okay. And I was like, no, guys, you guys need to double check that. They double checked it and surely it was 2,000 black chips and he stacked it totally off. And I was like, what is going on, guys? And then he's like, oh yeah, I just misstacked it. I don't know if the person's new, but the person was teaching me how to play roulette and I just didn't say anything, the dealer. So I was like, okay. So that was just kind of a weird experience. Anyways, I know in the past podcasts you guys reported always know your money and make sure you're counting it before they count it wrong for you, Anyways, thank you for everything you guys do. Have a good summer. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. You
thanks, Ariel.
Got to keep your eye on your money. And Mike, virtually the same thing happened to me in Blackhawk. I don't know if you were there for that. Yeah.
I must have not been.
Cashing out at Harrah's, and they're counting up all my chips, and okay, 2,600. And, the floor came over and looked, okay, yeah, 2,600. And I'm looking, it's like, no. Count it again. It was 3,600. They almost shorted me $1,000. Now, in Ariel's case, in my case, I'm sure it was just an honest mistake, but that's really bad. when you've got two sets of eyes on it, right? That's why the pit comes over and double checks. To be off by 1,000, you really got to keep an eye on that. And I feel bad for newbies, especially at craps, where they're trying to take this all in and pay attention to things. You know, are they getting paid correctly? Are they getting colored up correctly? Yeah, that's just terrible.
I just have one question for you. Where is the Harrah's in Blackhawk?
Yeah, thank you. I don't know how many times I referred to Horseshoe as Harrah's when we were there, Mike.
I know.
I
did it quite a bit too. That's why I mentioned it, because I did it. I kept doing it too. Someone had done the, where are you staying at? Oh, Harrah's. And they looked at me and I'm like, Horseshoe.
Yeah, Harrah's. I've never heard of such a place.
Yeah, we're staying in Vegas. We just drove here for the day.
That's right. Yes. But it did happen at Horseshoe. And also, I think it was at Horseshoe. I think you were here for this, Mike. When I bought in, they shorted me $100.
Yeah, they shorted you $100.
I kept looking at it thinking, what am I missing? And I questioned it. And then they said, no, see, here. And like, I'm okay. And then a couple minutes later, no, wait. Finally, they realized, we shorted you 100 and gave it to me. Oh, yeah, you got to stay on top
I wonder how many times that happens to newbies. Some guy who, doesn't regularly gamble, goes to the craps table, buys him for 300. They have a decent roll, and he's cashing out, and it's supposed to be like 500 something, and they give him 4 something because they got all reds and greens. Or I just wonder, and people, some people say, okay, well, that's what they gave me.
Yeah.
But no, you've got to watch your money. I suggest counting it before you give it to them.
I do that. Yes. At least so I have a ballpark. I might not get it down to the dollar.
Right.
But, to the $100 anyway.
Yeah. Well, I definitely count my blacks and greens before I give it to them.
Yeah. So, again, this isn't like an epidemic or anything, but you got to keep an eye on it. And it really is a shame.
Well, they're going fast.
I know they're going fast, but the whole point is, more than one person is looking at it. That's the whole point behind it, right?
Right. Well, and sometimes, have you ever noticed when they color up sometimes, there's like a ton of other chips in there? Like there's some chips that were on the all tall small, and the dealers
where they're counting
up.
Oh yeah, that's another thing you've got to watch for, is so that they don't lock up.
Your money.
Part of your color up. Yeah. Oh, I've had that happen before. No, wait, hey, that's mine. That's not what they just collected. Oh yeah. No, you got to keep an eye on it. Now I'm getting angry.
Well, you just keep going to Harrah's and you'll be fine.
I'll be fine. That's right. Yeah, I made my reservations for Harrah's and Blackhawk, and when I got there, they said, no, they don't have any record of it. All right, so we will be dropping another episode in a week, and when we drop that episode, I am going to be in Las Vegas for 360 Vegas Vacation. So,
nice.
You're refusing to go, but I said, you can count on me for sure.
Yeah, until they clean up the streets there, I am not going.
Yeah, so Dr. Mike's not able to make it, but I will be there. And if you would like to participate, there are plenty of free events that are going on there, get-togethers, that kind of thing. Go to 360vegaspodcast.com. And you can get all the details, and, Mark and his crew do a great job on their show and putting this all together. So I will see some of you at 360 Vegas Vacation.
Now, are you going by yourself or is Sherry going with you?
Nope, just by myself. Yep.
All right.
Just going to drive.
Well, give me hourly updates.
Yeah, will do. Every hour.
Yeah, every hour on the hour, I'd like an update.
All right. That's going to do it for this episode. We want to thank some people for some recurring donations. From James, from the International Brotherhood of Gobbling Donkeys. From Jeremy at the Color Up YouTube channel. From Kurt. From Robin at Anytime Gambling. From Nathan, and from Brian Dancer. Thank you very much for those recurring donations. We also got a donation from listener Thomas, headed to AC to celebrate the end of the school year. Thanks for all you do. Oh, that's great. We'll have a good trip, Thomas. Also a donation from Nicholas, karma donation for an upcoming cruise, hoping to get a few sessions in and offset the cost of the cruise. Oh, well, good luck, Nicholas. Yeah, that's the great way to go, is when your gambling can pay for the whole trip. So good luck.
Right.
Yeah. Also a donation from David, karma donation for my first solo trip to Vegas during Juneteenth. Haven't called in with a trip report since 2021. Hoping to update with news of my first Royal. Sorry to hear of both your losses, David from NorCal. Well, thank you very much,
Thank
David.
you.
And
Thank
good
you,
luck
David.
on your trip. Also, a donation from Chris. Karma donation for a Vegas trip in June. I hope y'all enjoy Colorado. Well, we definitely did. I'm from Fort Collins, but only made it to Blackhawk once. I remember loving the amount of natural light in the casino and the serve yourself soda fountain. Chris from Austin. Yeah, we didn't talk about that. Every place had serve yourself soda and coffee and, hot chocolate, that kind of thing.
Well, sometimes they had hot chocolate.
Oh, that's right. Sometimes it was broken. And yeah, a lot more windows than you would find at casinos, say, in Las Vegas. So yeah, that was great. Also a donation from Raji. You'll be receiving 2 of these. A Karma donation for my Vegas trip with Boise Billy D from June 2nd through the 4th. Well, hopefully you had a good trip there. And also a 2-way yo bet for you and Dr. Mike in Colorado. Capital letters because you got to yell or else it'll lose. Choose wisely you must. Yeah, he wrote 2-way yo all in capitals. Well, unfortunately, Raji, we did make the bet. It was at Horseshoe. And it didn't hit. What I think it was like a 6.
Hit.
We did it on the come out roll. I think it was a 6 or roll, something like that. But thank you very much for that, Raji. Also, a donation from Ed, Karma donation for our upcoming trip to Vegas for the USBC National Tournament at the South Point. Hoping for good luck on the lanes and at the tables. I know Dr. Mike was a bowler back in the day. Has he ever bowled in Las Vegas? Ed from Chicago. Did you ever bowl? Never?
No.
Huh.
No, and there were plenty of times when I thought, we drove here. Why didn't I bring my stuff and, go to one of the alleys there?
Yeah.
And just never did.
Never did. All right.
Paul and his group of buddies are going every year. They'll be there at that.
That's right. I think they're going to
USBC.
Orleans.
Yeah, Orleans.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul told me a few weeks back that they were going again this year for that.
Yeah. Well,
and I said, well, yeah, we won't. He was wondering if we might be there. And I said, nah.
All right. Well, good luck, Paul, even though he doesn't listen to the show.
Right.
Also, a donation from our friend Richard. Karma donation for a trip to Vegas on June 14th for the WSOP. Oh, and that just was a couple of days ago. And all other forms of gambling, as well as hoping to be there for a month. Could be a week. We know what that's like. Love the show. Thanks for the weekly entertainment. Richard from London. Well, thank you very much.
Good luck.
Also, a donation from Kevin. Karma donation for my upcoming Vegas trip on June 21st for my bachelor party. Oh, congratulations.
Nice.
Bringing 15 people, and more than half of them have never been to Vegas. Question, I was wondering what would be the best way to schedule in time for gambling in the itinerary, but I think the best way is to actually schedule the other non-gambling events and just assume all the rest of the time we are gambling. What do you guys think? Thanks for the show, and we'll hopefully get back to you with a trip report. I completely agree. Make all the non-gambling plans, and everything else is just gambling.
Right. Yeah, just work around those plans.
Yeah, especially if you're bringing people who've never been to Vegas. If you try to plan gambling too much, it might be a bit of a hassle. Can you get everybody on a table? Are people comfortable with the limits? Do they all know the rules? No, I think just filling in the blanks is the way to go.
Yep, I would agree. And I would suggest, if he's taking 15 people, if each one of those people bring him $100,
yeah,
he's got $1,500, then I would just, all the way across, $1,500.
All right, that sounds good. So, Kevin, see if you can get all your buddies to listen to this episode and hear Dr. Mike saying they should each give you $100, and maybe it'll work.
Yeah, or 1,000. I mean, depends on your friends. You know them better than me, but 1,000 it could be good.
Good luck, Kevin. And finally, a donation from Thomas, who set up the Blackhawk trip with Melissa. Here's the payout from the Twins covering against the Rockies. Yeah, he made a bet. He took the Twins, the run line -1.5, and I think the Twins slaughtered them. So
yeah, that was a day they scored a lot. Yeah.
It was great hanging out with both of you guys in Colorado. Looking forward to next year already. Yeah, it might become.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Yeah, it might become a yearly thing, kind of like Biloxi. We'll have to see. We certainly enjoyed it. So
I mean, we have to go back. I've got my lifetime pass to national parks.
Yeah, so
you got to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Hey, at the top of our webpage, you'll find a link to our store where you can buy You Can Bet on That merchandise. Also, you can find a list of all the gambling-related shows coming up on American television at youcanbetonThat.com/TV-listings. And we've got a list of gambling-related movies at youcanbetonthat.com/movies. We'd love to hear from you. Call our voicemail hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 9512-WAGERS.
9512-WAGERS.
Or you can email us at youcanbetonThat@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter at YouCanBetOnThat and on Facebook at facebook.com/YouCanBetOnThat. What do you got, Dr. Mike?
Well, Mark, I'm going to give you the animal count for my trip to Blackhawk.
Oh, okay. This is different species? Is that what you're going to give me the count of? Okay.
Different species.
Okay.
One moose.
Okay.
We saw a moose in a lake.
Mm-hmm.
We saw 5 elk.
Okay.
We saw 1 dead beaver in the road. Did you see it?
Sorry, didn't see the dead beaver in the road.
Okay, well, there was a dead beaver.
Okay.
We saw probably 100 chipmunks.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them. We saw several squirrels.
Okay.
0 deer. I was surprised about that.
Oh, Sherry saw some mule deer when we were up there.
Oh, she did.
Mhm,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we didn't see any deer. 0 on the bighorn sheep. We didn't see any of those, even though we were constantly looking for
I'll tell you what, don't mention any more of the zeros, okay? Because we could be here forever.
Okay.
There are quite a few species in the world. Yeah.
I 0 tigers.
Yeah, right.
Going on. We saw probably about 200 bikers.
Oh, uh-huh.
The Homo sapiens species.
Yeah, we saw a lot of those ourselves, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously there's an insane asylum somewhere near there because these people were at 2.5 mile elevation riding their bike uphill.
Yeah, we saw some of these bikers too, and we were thinking, how do they do it? I mean, some of it was so steep. It would be so much easier just to walk your bike. In fact, it was funny. We saw a couple of bikers pass each other on one of the paths. One of them was walking, and one of them said something like, "Oh, it's a nice day to walk your bike."
Yeah. Well, when we got to the top of the peak in the Rocky Mountain National Park, it's over 2.5 miles up.
Yep.
And there's guys riding up the hill. And I'm thinking, well, number one, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And number two, how do they get down? Is there somebody up there who meets them and takes them down?
What are you talking about? They ride down.
Oh, that's insane, Mark. You know how fast you'd be going?
Oh, I saw him. I saw him doing it. That's half the fun. That's most of the fun.
Okay.
I'm not justifying it, Mike. I'm just telling you the truth.
Yeah. You know what, though? I would rather see that than have some older lady hand me a little card with stripper numbers on it.
Yeah.
As I'm driving by.
As you're driving by. Does that happen to you in Vegas? They actually, as you're driving by, the porn slappers actually.
Vegas, you're walking, but I'm not going to be out walking at 2.5 miles high.
All right.
In the car.
All right. You're coming off the rails a little bit here, Dr. Mike. Anything else?
No, but we did have fun seeing all the animals and stuff.
Yeah.
So, Blackhawk might become a regular event for me.
Yeah. I think so for us as well. Yeah.
And that's it, Mark. It's Father's Day, so happy Father's Day
to you
all
and
the
everybody
fathers out there, and grandfathers. And also, today is the final day of the U.S. Open.
That's right.
So that's on my agenda to watch that on Father's Day, watch the baseball game, the Indiana Fever WNBA play today. So I'm going to watch that.
All right.
And that's my Father's Day.
All right. Well, enjoy. We'll talk to you in a week. Thank you for listening.
Good night.
Oh, sweet mother, I love you, Dr. Mike.